Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg here for the Sales Pro Network, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. It is Friday, August 27th, getting towards the end of the summer. And I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about cold calling. If our guest joins us, he's a little bit late. Maybe he's making some extra cold calls today. As you know, I founded the Sales Pro Network to help you make more money in sales, to get more appointments, to shorten your sales cycle, and to help you to close more business more profitably, and also to elevate the profession of sales. I'm personally very proud of the profession we're in. I often speak to salespeople who are somewhat hesitant about what they do, maybe even a little embarrassed. But if you represent a great product or service and you do it with integrity, you too should be proud to be in the profession of sales. My stepfather, who was a career salesperson, told me when I was very young that sales is a great career, and here's why. Every day you get to wake up, look yourself in the mirror, and give yourself a raise. And then all you have to do is go out and earn it. And that's what I hope you're doing every single day. If you're watching us live, please be sure to put hello in the comments. And if you're not connecting, if you're on Facebook and you haven't connected your Facebook to StreamYard, please be sure to put your name in there. Otherwise, it's just going to say Facebook user. If you're watching this on the replay, please be sure to put a comment in and say replay. Good morning, Ben Gibbs. He says, can we do this every day? Well, I'm not sure we can do this every day, Ben, but I'd like to talk to you every day because Ben Gibbs happens to be a salesperson who is extraordinary at what he does. He has a great attitude. He's smart. He asks for help. He's incredibly coachable. He's the kind of salesperson I love working with. Good morning, John Richardson. Good morning, Mark Labb. Good to see you. Good morning, Valerie Heffron down in Florida, at least for now. And it looks like our guest is about to join us. So give me 1 second and I'm going to bring him on. Here we go.
Well, Jeff, sorry for being tardy.
That's okay. That just meant that you didn't hear all the nasty things I just said about you for being tardy, Uncle Pete.
I deserved it. I'll tell you that.
No sweat. Good morning, Nancy Larrick. Good to see you. First visit, she says. Welcome to the Sales Pro Network, and I'm happy to have you here on a live. So as I said, I founded the Sales Pro Network to help you make more money in sales and to elevate the profession in general. And I always try to bring you either a great training session or an incredibly wonderful guest. And today, as always, is no exception. If Pete is swiping away flies or being
no, I'm telling you, stop glorifying me, will you?
Okay. Pete, I don't know about anybody else. Your volume's a little low. Can you get a little closer to your mic, maybe? That would be great. Pete Ekstrom is the owner of dealbuilders.com and is the inventor of the Gold Call. Don't let him fool you. He's a cold calling expert, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to my friend, Pete Ekstrom. Pete, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Jeff, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Pete, I'd like to jump in with questions because I've got a bunch of them. By the way, if you have any questions for Pete, please be sure to put them in the comments. Oh, good morning, Steve Kent. Good morning, Fran Cole-Hebler from down in Texas. And somebody's saying TGIF, but it only says Facebook user. Sorry, I'm not sure who you are, but TGIF to you too.
TGIF.
Yeah. Pete, before we get into the questions about cold calling and prospecting and everything else under the sun, could you just tell everybody just a little bit, maybe the 2-minute background story? How'd you get to be who you are today? What brought you here?
All right. Well, I grew up as a poor child. My parents gave me no allowance, so that meant I had to go door to door in the neighborhood with a paper route and that kind of thing. So that's where it started. So when I came home and told my dad after college that I got a job, he was excited until he heard that my job was selling Electrolux vacuum cleaners. And that's when the hat came off and slammed it down or whatever. But I've always been, pushing the envelope in terms of trying to sell myself. So it came natural for me. Quota carrying sales guy for, 22 years or so. And just right after the dot-com bubble popped, I decided to go into business for myself as a cold caller for hire, right? Have phone, will travel. So I earned my living helping companies mostly in the technology space, software companies, systems integrators, and of course, the World Wide Web and the internet and that sort of thing. So I made calls like anybody in the numbers game, dialed, and then got into understanding that people were communicating differently after Y2K. So we're in a different world today than we were, 15, 20 years ago because of the iPhone. It's changed everything in terms of communicating and that sort of thing. So Anyway, I developed a little tool that helps me, I guess, choose my and speak my words carefully because attention is fleeting. It's hard to get people to pay attention. So here I am today. The textbook that I created is a curriculum study here at Pace University in New York, along with several other business schools. And basically, we're developing early stage or raw sales talent for technology companies that have inside sales. So, anyway, so every day I do what most salespeople do. I walk the talk and I practice what I preach. And I know that's more than 2 minutes, but anyway,
That's
I'm,
okay. We've got an hour to fill.
I feel like I'm 28 years old, Jeff. You know.
On a first date. Hi, good morning, Phil Danielle. Pleasure to have you here. And good morning, Adam Holzer. Always good to see you. And if I could just take 1 minute from your time, Uncle Pete, I'd like to give a plug to my friend Adam Holzer. He's created something new called Huga, which is spelled WHOGGGA. And if you go to huga.com, it's a very different alternative to networking. I urge each of you to check it out. Adam's not only a great guy, but he's come up with a really cool concept. Huga, WHOGGA.com. Check it out. So, Pete,
Yes.
as a sales trainer and coach myself, I often hear from people that cold calling is dead. Or I get asked the question, does cold calling still work? And you probably get the same question. It's asked a million different ways. You know, did cold calling ever work? Will cold calling work when the black holes follow the sun? So what's your take? Is cold calling dead? And if it's not, why don't people do more of it?
All right. Well, let's take a step back. What's a cold call, right? All right. I think that's the problem. All right. So when I started in the business, I went door to door in Manhattan, and that was a cold call because they weren't expecting me, and I was selling a subscription to a business phone service. So it was a one-call close. So we cold called, and if you talk to people in the insurance,
You're talking
business,
knocking on doors, right?
knocking on doors physically, and after that job, it was ringing them up on the phone, and got a minute, that kind of thing. So if you all right, so what if you're selling a simple service that doesn't require any customization, cold call is okay. So if I'm working for Optimum or Cablevision or Warner Cable or whatever, I mean, I'm not knocking on doors. They won't let me in the building anymore, right? So I call them on the phone, and it's, are you interested or not? I mean, I don't need to get into any detail about what Warner Cable does. If are they still in business? So
Time Warner, sure.
all right. So as we got into more engineered solutions like a financial plan, a comprehensive property and casualty insurance, risk management, software, right? I mean, these are not one call closes. So cold call, we're back to it. So what I've decided to do to help me overcome the stigma, right? Because what do you do for a living? I'm a cold caller. I mean, right? That's not something you want to.
I don't know that anybody brags about that.
Right, exactly. So it's always, I'm a teller of tales, whatever. So first call, that's what I call it. It's a first call. All right. So if you out there are in a business that requires more than, do you want it to close a new sale? Then first calls, and then you close for the second call. So I just put a number to it, so it erases the stigma. And the problem that people, to your question, why don't people do more of it? Because up here they're saying you got to make cold calls. Oh, that's a bad thing. Don't tell anybody that you're a cold caller. It's a person can't perform in a role that's inconsistent with how they see themselves conceptually, and they're not getting into character. This is a performing art, as you know, Jeff, because you are quite a performer yourself, I've heard and seen. So if you're not in the mood and you have apprehensions about, it's no wonder these people tell you to send them information, or they're not interested, out of hand. They discard you. So what do you got to do? Why don't they do more? Well, because they don't understand the difference of a simple sale and a more complex multi-step sale. And I think it's that stigma, man. It's a cold call. So everybody out there, all right, it's not a cold call anymore. Uncle Pete said so. It's a first call.
We'll call it something different.
Yeah.
I'd have to say that I think that a large part of it is that fear of rejection. That look, I often say, and I've worked very, very hard to not have to cold call for my personal business anymore. I do it once a month just to make sure that what I'm teaching people is still working. But I personally would rather live in my car than have to cold call again. So that's why I've worked hard to build up my networking network, to get referrals from current clients and previous clients, the use of social media. But I think it's really that people just don't want to hear no, and they don't understand that it's part of the game, and they don't know how to help people change a no into a yes, which sometimes can be done. Um, I know that for me, I want every call to go like this, which is why I hate cold calling personally. I love teaching it, but hate doing it. If I was calling you, Pete, it would sound like this, and the way I'd want it to go. Hey, Pete, this is Jeff Goldberg from Jeff Goldberg and Associates. And you say, stop right there, Jeff. I've heard about you. I know you're so damn good. You're going to get the appointment. And once you get out here, you're going to close me. So why don't I save us both some time and just send you a check right now? Except that's not the way most of them go. Does it?
Gee, I'd kill to get that job.
Yeah, I would kill for that one too. Why do you say that? And what does it mean that people's elevator pitch is costing them sales? And how can they fix that?
All right, well, I'm glad you brought that back because I'm further to your point you made before, why people don't make more of the calls because they don't know what they're talking about. Initiating conversation is almost impossible, right? Think about it. You're initiating conversation with a complete stranger. It's almost like panhandling, right? So you're asking people today to pay attention for a couple of minutes to see if you can earn more of their attention. That's what it is. So how do you start the conversation, right? Hi, Jeff, Pete Ekstrom, right? Cheerful voice. I mean, if you read any sales book, or if you've walked on hot coals, Tony Robbins thing, which I like Tony. But if you've been through any sales program, sales training program, firm handshake, look your prospect in the eye. I mean, well, you can't do that over the phone, but you have to have a projected voice and you have to sound like you know what you're talking about. The sound of the voice is the only thing the prospect has to go on. So if you're weak up here and they don't think you ought to be making cold calls because it's a bad thing to do, there's a stigma, whatever, then the voice is not going to come out and mirror anything resembling confidence. So when you lack confidence, and we're back to, no should be part of the process. You should be expecting it in advance, not be surprised by it.
Every time, every single time. I expect people to say no. I expect people to tell me they're busy. I expect people to tell me that they're happy with their current provider. I mean, to me, there's only 7 things that people say when they're not going to give you the appointment. And if you're not prepared for them, something's wrong.
That's right. So another thing I've struggled with, I'm not perfect, coming to terms with managing expectations. I expect everything to go wrong. And when it goes right, I'm pleasantly surprised. And I hope that that's on Friday. So I have a good weekend. But when I call someone, I have a purpose, right? I know the shot. So if you're an owner of a small business, right, and I'm offering up, let's just say, some sort of risk management, right? I'm in the insurance business, right? I want to strike a conversation about managing risk. And I want to, first of all, not assume that the prospect is paying attention when they pick up the phone, because they're not. They're listening. They're listening, but they're not paying attention. And there's a difference. So I need to break the ice right away. And to be a welcome guest, I want to ask if I can sit down, right? You walk it out, and can I have a seat, right? So it's the same thing in the opening seconds of a call. So I've got to ask for a seat. I've got to ask for 10 seconds I need to explain my call. Now that's a question and it's a purpose woven into an icebreaker. So Jeff, you and I don't know each other, but I hope I have 10 seconds to tell you why I'm calling. Now, if I phrase my voice like that, I know in advance that either Jeff is going to tell me, no, you can't have 10 seconds, or for the most part, about 98% of the time, a complete stranger will give you the benefit of the doubt for 10 seconds. Okay? So we've gotten through the first lock of the Panama Canal and we're moving across. So the next thing you do is you got to have lemonade. Everything's lemonade. I don't care how complex your product is out there. It's all lemonade, which is a cold drink sold to thirsty people. And in this lemonade, its purpose is to quench the thirst of a thirsty market. And, it is what it is. So if somebody's thirsty, I don't need to explain to them I think they have ingredients on here. Caloric content, how much sodium. I'm thirsty. Can I have a drink? So you have to know in advance what the shot is. So if you provide small business with a free risk analysis that they can use, that's just off the top of my head, but that's how it has to be. It's not, hi, I'm from Allstate. It's not, hi, I'm from Coca-Cola. Because right away, if you're working for a popular brand name company, people are going to know that. They'll draw the first conclusion, by the way, is drawn in real time today. It's real time. So I'm sure as you are watching Jeff and our production today, you've probably drawn some first conclusions like, gee, I wonder what Pete's got on the TV over here. He says, those glasses, are those blue frames? That happens instantaneously. It's part of the human phenomenon to decide friend or foe. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish in the opening seconds of any first call. So, Jeff, Pete Ekstrom here. We don't know each other, but I hope I have 10 seconds to explain my call. I work for a company called ABC, and we help small business owners guard against unnecessary risk. That's all I got to say. It's it. Now, some salespeople might be saying, "Oh, that's not enough information," right? And then they start talking and giving information. And before you know it, your audience has lost interest. They're not paying attention. So I want to capture the immediate attention, and I know what I'm working with. People today are they're slippery eels to get their attention. So I've got to attract it by being different. So you're not doing more cold calling because you just don't have a process. You really don't know the shot. You're trying to tell. When you tell somebody in an elevator pitch, back to your question, right? The elevator pitch, it's like pushing a stalled car up a hill. You're starting from scratch because it's your idea, right? You bring it up. Now you got to prove it. And when you start proving value to your prospect, you start selling and telling. Today you have to pull attention in your direction. You have to attract attention. So if you're, I don't care if you're shy when you're sleeping, okay? But when you're on the job and your first call to a complete unknown, you need to sound like you're a force to be reckoned with, to garner their respect, at least for 10 seconds, right? And then you tell them why you're calling. Now, there's a whole process here, and I'm not going to go through, I'm enjoying a conversation just about the process because I've lived with this prospecting. I'm not 28 years old, okay? And I've made more mistakes than I care to admit, really. If you look for the Gold Call Show on YouTube, yes, I have a YouTube channel, and I have a greatest hits section. To practice my voice, if you want to have more confidence to make the more cold calls, first calls, right? How do you sound? How you sound is how you sound. So I've got some calls up there with some prospects, and we go through the process of initiating a conversation. It's lemonade. Are you the right person? And keep in mind, today you're closing for attention. Too early to go for a big sale. You need to go for something small, a small bite, I say. Take a small bite. A prospect is most willing to give you their attention at a designated time on their calendar rather than give you a sales appointment. Okay. Again, we're back to that stigma. If it's a sales call, what have I done? The prospect hangs up the phone. I just agreed to appointment. Right? So you want attention. Jeff, if there was something that I might do or some ideas you haven't heard of before that could expose a problem and solve it, would I get any of your attention? That's pretty much how it goes, folks. Now, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let Jeff do some talking here because I need to fetch a glass of that lemonade myself. All right.
Well, there are two things that I really love. First of all, tone of voice is crucial. If you sound tentative, if you sound like you're not lacking confidence in what you have, nobody's going to listen to you. They're not going to pay attention because why would I? Why would anybody want to do business with you, me, or anybody else unless you have some confidence that what you have to offer them might very well be able to help them? And the other thing I really liked was that 10-second thing. You're making it's right in line with the philosophy of mine, which is make it easy for people to say yes. I hope I have 10 seconds. That's a bite that almost anybody can give. I teach slightly differently. I'm sure I caught you at a bad time, but if I could have just 30 seconds, I'll explain why I'm calling. And at the end of the 30 seconds, I'll ask you whether you want to continue on or not. Is that fair enough? So it's that bite-sized chunk that makes it easy to agree to. If you call me and say, hey, Jeff, do you have 15 minutes? I don't have 15 minutes. I'm busy. I'm booked all day long. I'm making money to feed my 3 kids, but I do have 30 seconds, or I certainly have 10 to give you a break on that. And I don't think it's just because we're salespeople who can relate to other salespeople. I think just about anybody who actually picks up the phone, which is almost a miracle in itself these days, will give you 10 or 30 seconds. So I love that. So what do you think has changed? I know you talk about the attention economy.
Right.
What's changed in cold calling?
All right, people are more impulsive than ever. So essentially, the first of all, what's changed with cold calling? The accessibility to the prospect. This is nothing that everybody watching today doesn't know already. Know people are, they're not camped or tethered to their desk, right? The mobile workforce since 2007 is alive and well. So, but there are resources that you can access to get phone numbers and things. I'm using Seamless.ai. Been a customer for about a year, and I think it's making a dramatic improvement in my prospecting efforts because I have information I need that's relevant at my fingertips. Okay, so um, the attention economy. So people are impulsive, they're spontaneous, and they're quicker on the draw than salespeople that are calling that want to pitch something. I mean, their process is to present. So the prospect is prepared to handle any kind of attempt on your end to basically close them. So they're so with the attention economy, that it's the new currency of business. Okay. Attention is what you're asking your prospect to give up, and it's like money in their wallet. And it's the same way with you. Okay. You're not apt to pay attention to anything unless it strikes your attention at the right time, the right way, the shiny object. So there's a book called The Attention Economy. I can't remember the author, but that really changed it for me. Attention is a new currency of business. So every person, including Jeff, myself, and those watching from around the world, have a switch. It's like a circuit breaker in your electrical cabinet at home. All right. And when it overloads with electricity, it shuts down so that, well, you don't go on fire. That's why they have it. So people now have an attention filter, a switch. And as soon as they hear a couple of words or the tone of your voice or an image or anything, basically they're able to react and respond right away. And basically they cover their wallet that has all their attention in it. Okay. You're going to guard that because time is money. And we're measuring that more than ever now because we're multitasked out we're crazy about it. So many things that we're doing at the same time. So attention is the new currency of business. And companies and salespeople that know how to capture attention will be profitable. If you're not an attention getter, either learn how to be one or you're in for a real rough road because you're starting from scratch at a dead stop at the bottom of a hill and pushing the car up on every call. That's why like insurance and financial planning and stuff, they have such a high burnout, a turnover. I mean, who can go up and not know what they talk about, face that pressure of rejection, get bopped over the head, and then try to feel motivated to make the next call?
Well, I find the challenge in those two particular industries is that they simply don't train them well. They'll hire anybody, and that's no offense to the people who are successful, but for the most part, they hire anybody. They give them very little training. They say, go sell your friends, go sell your relatives,
Right.
go sell your associates, and then they're lost, which is why there's such a high burnout. If they would invest with somebody like you who could teach them how to cold call or how to sell.
How to break the ice, how to initiate conversation, how to be more spontaneous. You got to come out of your shell. You got to be out there. It's an open night at the Improv, like it or not. That's what it's going to take to
Every day, all day long. Absolutely.
At least give you the benefit of the doubt. That's what you need out of people now, the benefit of the doubt. That's why I say, I hope I have 10 seconds. I mean, why would you deny me? All right, 10 seconds.
Yep.
Because after 10 seconds,
yep,
they can say no. See, before I knew you said something before, Jeff, and I scooted over it. You said you want to make it as easy as possible for people to say yes. No, I want to make it as easy as possible for people to tell me no.
Oh, I make it easy for them to say both.
I thought you did. So
100%. Easy to say yes, easy to say no. I'm not here to fight with anybody. You don't want to talk to me? That's okay. You don't want to buy from me? That's okay. But my game is, how do I prospect to enough people in enough different ways that enough of them are saying yes? But yeah, I'm with you. Yes and no are almost equally good. If yes is here, no's right here. Everything else is way down there.
Now, having the courage, right, to push the envelope, because you're toe-to-toe with a prospect on the phone looking for an appointment or trying to close a sale. And so you really need to be steadfast, and you have to have the courage, because you're not going to ask the tough question if you think you're going to get the wrong answer. Like, they're not really interested. They don't have any money. They're not the only person that makes the decision. Whatever. They're not going to turn those cards over and show you. That's not how people work. So you've got to bring out the truth. Bring the truth out into the open and deal with reality. And if it's not on the cards, here's how I close an appointment, right? Jeff, appreciate your time. I appreciate your time. And while you're looking at your calendar, let me just say this. If we don't find a need or a fit, I want to be the first to say so because I don't want to waste anybody's time, especially yours. So I put the thoughts of the prospect ahead of my own. So it takes the whole defensive level down, like a battery level, it goes, woo, because I'm not coming at you. I'm saying, look, let's just have a conversation, see if we have a fit. And let me tell you this. If we don't find a fit, I always like to be the first to say so because I don't want to waste anyone's time, especially yours. Is that fair?
Yeah.
You're turning a cold call into more of a sales interview with the first call, right? It's a give and take. It's just I'm trying to reach an agreement in the easiest, non-threatening way possible to get attention scheduled to the calendar.
Yeah. Too many salespeople make it all about themselves. I want to meet with you. I want to show you why we're the greatest company in the world when it's really not about us at all. It's about them. And if we would just switch our mind to how can I really serve this person, not how can I make a commission, then I think we're way ahead of the game. Steve Kent said he agreed with you that people's attention span is very short. Agreed, you get to maybe 10 to 30 seconds of a prospect's attention. And there's a Facebook user whose name I don't know who's saying a quick no is good. Move on. It is a numbers game. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's a skills and a mindset game, but it is also a numbers game. And let's see. Valerie Heffron says, I love Uncle Pete's voice and demeanor. You've got a fan, Uncle Pete.
Well,
hey,
I'm a cynic.
I'm curious, we're talking about cold calling, which typically means using the phone. What's your feeling on using email as in conjunction with making calls?
All right. I never thought I'd see this, right? I mean, I've been around the block a few times, but email, I was always like, no email, whatever. All right. Spam, no good. But a phone call to the prospect, and you're going to get voicemail, right? So leave a voicemail. Hi, this is Pete. Don't know each other, but I found something important that I think you ought to have a look at. I wanted to call you in advance. I'll put important message in the subject header and tell them to get an email. Okay. So you got three things here. Call them, leave the message because you're going to get voicemail, right? Or in your part of the world, do they answer 90% of the time? Okay.
Which part of the world is that?
I don't know. Antarctica, because it's lonely down there. They need people to talk to. Thank God a salesperson called me. You precious soul. Back to my point. So leave a message. Quick one. No more than maybe 15, 20 seconds. All right. Time yourself. I'm telling you. That's the attention span of some, even if they listen to the voicemail, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you got 60 voicemails. You're going to sit there and listen to them all? No, neither is your prospect. So take a shot. You leave a voicemail. I'm about to send you an important message regarding your commercial policy, right? Then you send it. And then the third thing is to follow up. So it's not a cold call anymore, is it, folks? It's a first call, but it's really a follow-up call, right? Because what am I calling reference to? The email message I sent, you probably didn't get, right? You probably didn't get a chance to read it. So I hope I have 10 seconds to tell you why I sent it. I'm in the game now. And then I get to my lemonade, tell people what I'm doing and find out they're the right person. And if I could hop, skip, and jump, better, cheaper, faster, that I save the good part for the last. Any kind of feature, benefit, or value should only exist in the request for attention on the calendar. Okay. I don't have anything. I can't do anything for anybody. I mean, I solved the following problem, but I'm still unsure if you have it. So email. That's how I'm using it. And what I'm saying is that I guess at the top was that I never thought I'd say it, but email seems to be getting me close to a 10% response with that. All right. I think it's somewhere about 8.5. I started measuring these things. About 8.5%, which is not bad. So if it's relevant, not a pitch, right? So let's go to the body of the email, right? What you want to do, and I want you to picture yourself in the park and they're pigeons, right? If you get up off the park bench and you walk towards the pigeons, they'll fly away. Okay, that's prospecting today. So when you make a move, the birds fly away. But if I have a bag of bird seeds or breadcrumbs and I throw it at the pigeons, and then the next one I throw a little closer. This is cadence, right? Drip marketing. Pretty soon I'll have pigeons at my feet. I'll be able to grab one, right? I like squab. How about you, Jeff?
Squab, never had it.
Okay. So that's what I'm trying to do with this email. So the text has to be real simple. Okay. Don't have enough time to go into all of the different questions, but I will summarize by saying this. Questions give birth to conversation and two-way replies. And I found that email, if I ask the right question. So think today, if you met a prospect, instead of telling them, what's the first question you would ask that prospect? It's the first one.
Me personally?
Other than, are you still in business?
How can I best help you?
Okay. But I mean, if we're meeting for the first time, Jeff, right? So the first question I would want to ask, if let's just say we're talking about, I don't know, facilities management. I'm a cleaning company, right? So the first thing I would want to do is find out just how much personal involvement you have with making decisions about cleaning services. And then shut up. You have to shut up when you after you ask a person a question. All right. Let them digest the words, mull it over. So I dropped the bomb because now you have to come back with information. So either you are or you aren't. So I have to lead. Remember the breadcrumbs with the pigeons. I got to lead you. Jeff, before I go on and tell you about my company, how much personal, right? How much personal involvement do you have with making decisions about facility services like cleaning and sanitation? Then I shut up. And what do you say, Jeff?
I'm the decision maker, of course.
All right. Or you could tell me we have a company we're real happy, right? Let's go worst.
The company, we're real happy.
This is not heaven, okay? This is real world. We're in the trenches here. So, right? What manage expectations. So I'm not expecting you to say, oh, I'm the guy and I'm looking for somebody like you. I mean, they wouldn't need people like us if it was that easy. So you tell me that you already have a vendor and we're quite happy. Thanks for calling. Right. All right.
No.
Jeff, how much personal involvement do you have with making decisions about facility services like sanitation?
I'm involved.
All right. No, you're supposed to give me an objection, sir. I got a company. I'm happy, and make it sound like a prospect.
Yes, I've got a company that I'm working with for many, many years now, and they do a great job. I got to tell you, Pete.
Okay. So the unprepared salesperson starts to go into this, but, right? But with this, but that. Hey, did you hear about the owner of that company? Whatever it is, to try to put the spotlight on the value of your service and try to get your foot in the door. That's a lot of work, folks. So we're trying to get to the point, yes or no. So, Jeff, when you tell me you've been working with somebody for 30 years, does that also mean that you've decided against looking at any other service, even if it was better?
Well, I haven't actively been doing it, but I guess I'd be open if something was really better. I would certainly take a look at it.
Prospects have a lot of trouble laying off that one because what it does, it forces them to eliminate options. I'm telling you, you got to be a psychologist in this game today. You got to know how people's minds work. They're in an avoidance mode right from when you say hello. To go right into a defensive position. How much time is this? How much attention is this going to cost me? That's the first thing. So I'm always working in the opposite. So I expect you to tell me you already have an office supplier. You already have a driver. I appreciate you telling me that, Jeff. Now, when you tell me that, are you also telling me that you've decided against looking at any other service, even if they were better? That was great. Which one? All right. Somebody. Which part?
I'm not sure, but one of our Facebook users liked what you said.
I think they like the fact that you're never out of the game if you know how to parse your dialogue and create actionable dialogue that gets the response, good or bad. You want to know yes or no, up or down. So
Pete, I think they might be asking about the question: are you open to?
Yeah, right. No, I kind of figured that, right? So you get somebody tells you they're happy. I'm glad to hear you're happy, even though I'm not. But does that also mean that you've decided against looking at any other insurance for your business, even if it could help you? Now, it's hard to lay off that because when they take away the options, people love options. They love to think it over. So I'll play that game too. So now I want you to think it over about, well, maybe I'm missing out, right? Maybe I'm missing out on something that I shouldn't. And if you notice Jeff's tone of voice, he's suddenly talking and you listen, sell with your ears. You're hearing how his manner of speech said, well, I guess I'd be kind of stupid if I didn't just at least look. That's what it sounded like to me.
That's what I was thinking.
What do you got to lose? That's how you have to sound. You got nothing to lose. And I already know in advance that if there isn't a fit, I'm going to tell you so, because I don't want to waste your time. If you tell me you got a supplier, that's terrific. A lot of people tell me that. Now, does that also mean you're against looking at any other option, even if it was better? And if you practice that, get it into I don't know, party or persona, you're never off guard in conversation. Never be off balance. And that takes practice. It really does. It's not going to happen overnight because there are circumstantial elements that are impacting your frame of mind. It could be the job. It could be your boss. It could be the business you're in. Could be bad rumors about your product or whatever it is. That dictates how well you do in speech. Triggering area, FOMO.
Fear of missing out.
A what? Fear of missing out, FOMO. Hey, a teacher can always learn something new. FOMO. That's like, to our Facebook friend, Val, I remember. Never mind.
What about, I want to ask another first call question. If you have somebody's cell phone, would you call their cell phone or do you only call, business phones?
Well, if you're checking, you don't call the cell phone. If it's a matter of life and death, you'll call the cell phone, right? So somewhere in between that margin, life or death, okay? You got to find where you are on a scale.
Life and death and chicken, it's those two?
It is. What are you afraid of? All right, I call you on your cell. I'm expecting you to tell me you got some nerve calling me, right? I expect that. And so saying I'm sorry is a salesperson's best friend. I'm sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to disturb you. Oh, God, there I go again. Kind of fall on the sword. You can't, just back away. Don't get defensive or anything like that. But you have a right to make, here we go. God bless America. You have a right to make that call. It's in the Constitution. It's free enterprise, okay? Again, we don't get to pick and choose the psyche of our prospect. Like if you were a psychiatrist, you have to take everyone, even the guy that thinks he's a chicken and he run around the office. Okay, you got to take that guy. They're not all, depressed or, you have to be prepared to handle multiple personalities. And basically, when you call a cell phone or any phone or have any contact with a prospect, one of two things, right? They're going to be, three things. They'll either be real happy you called, indifferent, or really unhappy you called.
That's the same as everybody, isn't it, Pete? The same as everybody. So I think if I asked you this question 5 years ago, the answer might have been, no, it's not really appropriate. But these days, the cell phone has people my age and your age, I still have a landline and I have a cell phone. Young kids, all they have is cell phone. So I think it's reasonable. And you're right. It's all about being prepared. What's the worst that happens? How dare you call me on my cell phone? If you're an intelligent salesperson, you are prepared for that. Just like you said, you should be anticipating that they may be upset.
Well, here's the thing. If I don't make the call, then we'll never know. And if I get into a pattern of not making calls, if I'm working for somebody, I'll be fired. Or if I'm self-employed, I'm going to starve. So the fear of starvation, that drives me. I'll make that call to a cell phone, before I allow myself to get thin.
How about texting?
That's a good question. And I'm on the fence, but more like no, because I don't do a whole lot of texting. I don't think I've really done it. If I have a cell phone number, which is usually the same, um, you know, I can't. I don't see the connection. I'm not able to expand. That's the text word. That's why attention spans are so short. I don't think I can embellish and put enough seasoning on my speech in a text in order to cause someone to look at or take my call. To
Got
the
it.
person that just posted the question, um, I'm I'm about to call you. I wouldn't do that. I That's my personal preference. I just make the call because I'm courageous. Yeah, I'm reborn. I'm
Yeah.
like the cowardly lion that has his courage medal now. I can take it standing up.
Yep. Phil Danielle, who is a expert salesperson and sales leader, he's a VP of sales. He says people give out their cell all the time. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Call. Look,
Mhm.
here's my belief. We have a responsibility to both ourselves and our prospects. If you are not reaching out in an appropriate way, in every way you can, to try to help people who actually have a need for what you offer, then you're doing yourself and your prospect a disservice if you don't. You're not feeding your family, and I like the way you said it. I don't want to be getting thin, and you're not taking care of them. Our job is to help people do what they do better, and we can't do that unless we can somehow get in touch with them, or unless they get in touch with us. Look, I'm a big fan of people raising their hand and saying, "Please, Jeff, call me. I need some coaching. I need some training." But that doesn't happen all day long. If it did, you and guys like you and me would probably be out of business. We've
Yeah.
got to take the initiative and
Yes.
reach out to people because they don't know that the gold call exists. They don't know that I have coaching that's going to change their lives. We've got to make that call. What's the LinkedIn profile visitor?
Profile Visit, well, it's a platform for prospecting. It takes the Gold Call Script Builder Kit and a process. Here's another thing with first calling, right? Prospecting. No process. It's wing it, numbers. When I get to it, I can do it. Oh, 6:30. I didn't prospect today. I'll double up tomorrow. And there's never time. All right. So let's not kid each other. That's how it works. So again, when I'm self-employed, I'm responsible for my own welfare and well-being financially. So I'm motivated like crazy. I have no salary coming in. So in order to make the best use of my time, I came up with a platform that basically looks at LinkedIn profiles, how to find the people that fit the profile of your prospect, how to make contact with them through LinkedIn, in mail or email with the phone call. This goes into a process of, I guess, drip marketing and direct sales follow up. So, I guess I want to monetize people's profile. You can do it. I don't care what business you're in. Again, we're in the attention economy. The more attention you draw to yourself, the easier it gets to initiate a follow up conversation. Protocols on LinkedIn: don't connect with people on LinkedIn and then pitch them. Okay. Put people first. People first. Believe me, if you start putting people first and their concerns ahead of your own, you're going to make a lot of money because courtesy and respect is in short supply. Its value is through the ceiling. Everybody wants to be the leader, they want to be first, right? So be affable, be very affable. So when you find a prospect profile, the profile visitor, it's a workbook of a process. It reads like a checklist. There are interactive behaviors you need to execute every day. And if you follow the recipe, I would say within a good month to month and a half, you will have your own personal ecosystem. You can establish a, I call it VPC, a virtual personal connection through LinkedIn because the communication fits through the eye of a needle right now with people's attention spans. So I can find something in your profile that you read through this in the workbook that is a initiative for conversation, something. And if you start instead of playing the numbers, be smart about looking at people's profiles and coming away with some sort of conversation starter. Hey, that's a nice hat you got. Uh, I mean, it can be as cheeky as that, but in business, the bottom line profile visitor does it puts an emphasis on giving praise and attention to other people because that's why they post on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I love that, Pete. I love that. I got to tell you, Even you kind of jokingly said, nice hat you got. But, I recently have one of the things I offer in
Different.
my service is outsourced sales management. And one of the salespeople I'm currently managing reached out to me recently and said he'd been having a hard time connecting with somebody that he really wanted to offer his services to. And I said, did you try reaching out on LinkedIn? He goes, yeah, but he didn't respond. I said, okay, let's take a look together. And we got on a Zoom call and I'm looking at the guy's profile. Well, his profile picture is him on a horse, a
Right.
real horse.
Oh,
So
really?
I said, yeah, the guy's sitting on a horse. So I reached out to the guy via LinkedIn to connect to him. And of course, as I'm sure you know, you don't send the standard LinkedIn connection request. You always edit it and make it personal. And I said, wow, you rarely see a picture of somebody on a horse on LinkedIn, and that one's gorgeous. Let's connect. He connected 30 minutes later. So it
Yeah.
can be as simple as that. You've got to be paying attention.
As a matter of fact, I have an example because I took a screenshot of an exchange I had through LinkedIn with a prospect, and our conversation was about cigars because he had a cigar, right? And at the time, I was smoking cigars, so we had something in common right away. And I think it's like two screenshots. I'll send it to you if you want to send it out. But what it does, it actually explains what's going on right now with connecting with people on LinkedIn. If you're different, if you're courteous, and you stop selling and start asking, you know, uh, what kind of horseshoes do you put on your horse? I'm on a ranch and we have horses too. Do you find that,
Yeah.
Now you might be saying, well, how does that get me closer to the sale? Are you going to sit there and tell me that the intricacies of your product or whatever is going to garner a good conversation? I mean, you know, I mean, I'm more, get to people's personal level, and just you have to know when it's time to transition into the business, right?
But it's being interested in them first. I mean, if
Yeah.
I was trying to sell you something, Pete, because I did my research before we got on this call, I'd probably reach out to you and say, hey, I see that you're a veteran and that you're a trumpeter, an expert trumpeter, and that you often volunteer your time when they bury service people. Wow, what made you do that? You're going to be fascinated by me, even though all I did was ask you a question and I'm
And
paying
what do we
attention
have
to
now,
you.
Jeff? We have rapport. Because Jeff is paying attention to me and giving me a pat on the back for a service I provide to veterans. And, when you
Which
make
I do,
other
by the way.
people feel good, that's your business. Forget about the appointment. Your job is to make contact with human beings today and make them feel good without sounding cheeky or cliche or plastic. Okay. But
Be interested in them.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's got a story, right? And you find it on LinkedIn. You can look. I mean, there's things there. I mean, look at the activity, their postings. I go on LinkedIn and I connect with people, and every time they put a post up, I like it, and sometimes I applaud it.
Yep. Val says anyone who talks about their pets and shows me pics has an automatic bond with me.
Same
Val,
here.
nobody loves pets more than Val
Yes,
does.
well,
And I love,
I'll melt on the spot.
yeah,
If anything having to do with a
absolutely.
dog, you got me. You had me at
Yeah.
hello.
Pete, why should salespeople record their calls?
Well, if it's a performing art. First calls, anything in sales, negotiating, whatever. It's a performing art today. If you're a performer, then you can separate yourself from the pack, because most people are poor communicators. Public speaking is the biggest difficulty out there. So the fear of it. So what was the question again, Jeff?
Why should people record their calls?
Why should they record their calls? I don't want to get off. I hate when I digress. Okay, so if you want to perform like a professional, you got to know how you sound. Okay, so when I record my conversation on the phone, I like to play it back, and that's how I discovered how bad I was. I was a good numbers guy.
Bingo.
I get on the phone and, hi, I'll be in the area next Tuesday. Would Thursday be better for you? And I'd like an opportunity to share with you some of the things that we've done for companies just like yours, blah, blah, blah. And I got my foot in the door. But sooner or later, we realized in the digital world, the attention economy that we're in right now, they're not going to pay attention to that. So recording, you play it back. And when I played back my calls years ago, I was like, oh my God, holy mackerel. Because you sound, when you speak, you're hearing it through internal bone, okay? You're not hearing it like the audience is hearing it. There's a difference in that, okay? So when you record, it is what it is. There's no, it's a perfect mirror. Well, close to perfect
Yeah. You
digital.
get to see your performance and
Right.
judge it and
And
and,
then you
and
hear,
fix it. Yeah,
yeah,
you know the name of the guy I used to work for, he who shall not be named. When I went to work for him, he made me listen to every call I made all day long for 30 nights. I used to have to go home at
right.
night and listen to the cold calls I made during the day. And look, I was pretty experienced at that point, but I was constantly stunned how somebody would say A, but I'd respond to B because I wasn't listening well enough. And I think that's, if you're not listening to your calls, how are you going to get better? Because you can't listen while you're saying it.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you'll
And
catch yourself
the
in the
reason I
middle and
was
go,
getting
why
I
did I
was
say that?
blusting before is because I was trying to put together some words. How bad do you want it? Right? Do you want to be great just for your own personal satisfaction? So you can look in the mirror every morning and say, hey, I came, I saw, right? So that's a good reason to record, because if you're serious about performing the call, if you're serious about talent, your voice is a musical instrument. Okay. You're going to learn to play the piano out of a book or some seminar. It's going to take practice. So if you're serious about at least doing something to keep you from being taken advantage of by people you're trying to do business with, the smoke, you know how people fill the room with fog and don't tell the truth, right? So I just want to avoid that. And the better speaker I am, the better able I am to speak off the cuff. It just makes for a healthier process.
And what do you mean, Pete, when you say you can't shoot the moose from the lodge?
Well, you got to get out there. I mean, nobody sits in the lodge and thinks that the moose is going to walk up to the door and say, with a sign around its neck, shoot me, right? So you can't shoot the moose from the lodge. You got to go out there and look for the moose. So it's a humorous little thing. Thanks to Bullwinkle, right? The moose. I'm talking about my post. Yeah, you can't shoot. You can't shoot the market from a distance. You got to be really. It's a great question, by the way. Today, you used to be able to sell long distance. You used to be able to. Today, you got to be real up in terms of knowledge before the call. You got to be real close to your prospect now, probably within a foot distance. That's it. You got to be close. You got to know who you're talking to, have some mutual interest to start the conversation, that sort of thing. That's my thought on it.
Got it. What about gatekeepers? Typically, well, at least pre-COVID, they were more important. Now that people are working often remotely and they get their phones forwarded directly to them. But what about when you do reach a gatekeeper? You're trying to get to a decision maker. How do you work past the gatekeeper? How do you work with the gatekeeper to get to the person you really want to speak
All
with?
right, so let's at the root, right? You don't need to talk to gatekeepers anymore, like the seamless AI, okay, that I'm using. I get a cell phone number, I get a direct number. So I'm not getting gatekeepers much anymore. Since COVID, they're not there to answer the phone. So they're working remote too. Um, so if you do get a gatekeeper, right? People try to sell the gatekeeper. This all right. I think if you have the right information beforehand and you can get that from a LinkedIn profile or other resources, you can just by the nature of the game avoid the gatekeeper altogether. All right. For the most part, you're getting voicemail, and we already talked about that. But if you do get a gatekeeper, I would, you got a disjointed situation now. People working remote, not quite sure, whatever. But I'm nice about the conversation. And Jeff, why don't you say, Uncle Pete's office, can I help you? Go ahead. Ring, ring.
Uncle Pete's office, can I help you?
Oh, I guess Uncle Pete's not in the office today.
No, he's here.
Oh, okay. Can he come to the phone? This is Pete calling.
Oh, what's this in regards to, Pete?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm calling. You think I should call back later, or maybe try him on his cell? What is he, in a meeting?
No, he's working at his desk, but I'm not allowed to put any through unless I know what it's about.
All right. You know what I'll do? I appreciate your patience. I'm just going to give him a try back on his cell a little bit later on. All right. By the way, if I call back around 6:45, 5:45 or so, will we be talking again?
5:45. No, I leave at 4:59 and 59 seconds.
Write that down, right? I call you back at 5. I call back at 5:01. I'll probably get Jeff, right? So I have to play it. So you put down your CRM, whatever you got. It says, call this prospect after 5 o'clock. I want to avoid the gatekeeper. That's my answer to your question, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Look,
I want to avoid it. Now, if you're interested in some humorous exchanges with gatekeeper, because I hold them near and dear to my heart, you go to secretarytalk.com. Secretarytalk.com. Another collection of my greatest hits of off-the-cuff conversations with some of the world's greatest gatekeepers. I love these folks. We even got one from England up there. All right. I never knew what a surname was when they were screening my call. They said, "Sir, what is your surname?" I don't have a sir. I'm not a knight. I'm thinking like you're a sir, like Sir Paul McCartney. Right. I didn't get it. So some of these things are hilarious. And the reason I put them up there is to let people know that when you're sword fighting with a gatekeeper, you're going to get stabbed. Okay. You just do. They're not there to be your friend. They're there. What are they? They are protecting the attention of their boss from being stolen by a cold calling salesman.
Part of their job. Keep guys like you and me away from the boss.
Attention is the new currency of business. So now here's what you can think. The person you're calling, like the CFO, the owner, whatever, executive, important person, their attention is so valuable that they need a bank vault guard outside their office to protect their attention. That's how valuable it is.
Yep.
So gatekeepers, because of COVID and the remote workforce or whatever, not running into them too much. If you're calling on small businesses, you're more likely to run into. So I just suggest that you be polite and try to figure out when you can call back and the owner gets on the phone directly. And that means, and here's another thing, right? A lot of salespeople aren't making calls at 6 o'clock at night. Dumb. That's when the fish are biting, right? If you're fishing, time and tide, right? And bait and block and tackle.
Yeah, call when the gatekeeper's not there. The gatekeeper does not come in before 9, is not there after 5, and often takes lunch from 12 to 1. When I used to cold call for a living, I used to make calls on Saturday mornings. And if you're thinking, for those who are watching, why would you possibly make cold calls on a Saturday morning? Well, there's 2 reasons. One is most of the time you get voicemail anyway, so what's the difference when you call? And the other thing is you'd be surprised at how many times I'd be making calls on a Saturday morning and somebody would actually pick up, because they don't expect that somebody like Pete or me or you guys is making those calls. They think it's their family. Who else would call them? But it's busy people who are trying to clean up their desk and get rid of stuff that they couldn't get to all week because guys like you and me were calling all week long. So call when the gatekeeper's not there.
Sales is not a 9-to-5 job.
Not if you want to make money. If you want to make money in sales, you need to work longer than 9 to 5. You want a 9 to 5? Go work at McDonald's. Get the headset.
Bank. Nothing against people that work at banks. All right, if you're out there. But the thing is that, I've probably gotten through to more people between 5:30, 6 o'clock, even 6:15, because the people high up, right? It's not a 9-to-5 job for them either. There's so much stuff on their plate. So after all the crazy people that are knocking on their door and all the conference calls they've been on today, whatever, nobody schedules anything at 6 o'clock. I haven't scheduled an appointment really with a prospect, and I'll call them at 6, but 10 a.m. That's the pot, like Family Feud. What's the most popular time off the cuff that prospects like to schedule on it? 10 a.m. What's the most popular answer when you ask a prospect, when can I follow up with you? 2 weeks. 2 weeks, number one, survey says. So managing your time with gatekeepers, don't spend a whole lot of time trying to sell them. They're not buying. They don't own the company's paycheck. They can't make any other decision other than to lower the drawbridge or keep that drawbridge raised. See, you fall in the moat. The rest of the salespeople fighting crocodiles.
Perfect, Pete. One of the things I love about what you do is that you have the cojones. You actually put your live calls on recording and you put them on your website. Yeah. They're part of your program. And I'm going to look up that Secretary Talks one. I didn't hear about that one before, but I love that about you. And you definitely got some new fans today. Chris Jones says, great stuff, Jeff. Joe Pontius, good to see you joining us. Great insights from you. And Facebook user, not sure which this one is. Thank you, Jeff and Uncle Pete. Great content. Pete, we only have 2 minutes left. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Steve Kent also says, thank you, Jeff Goldberg and Peter Ekstrom, for an interesting and formative discussion. I'm going to share my screen. It just takes me a second to get here. And if you would please tell people, I'm sharing my screen now, how can they reach you if they're interested in working with you to become a better cold caller?
All right. Well, thegoldcall.com. All right. So what's posted there is the exact like I call it e-textbook. Okay, how's that? E-textbook that is taught at that I teach at Pace University. There's some of my class there, and about 6 other business schools carry the program. So essentially, there's a little video there. It tells you about some of the things we talked about today. And there's multiple different little things that come along with the Gold Call kit to help you turn you into, or help you become a better speaker. And so the goldcall.com is where you can find me. And
Is there a phone number to reach you at if people want to call, or just
you can call me
goldcall.com?
here, and you can even call me direct or call me collect. All right. At 516-541-8160. That number again is 516-541-8160. Out of town, call collect.
Lead Ekstrom.
Operators are standing by.
As always, the hour has flown by. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom so generously with us. I really appreciate it. I'm always looking for better ways and more effective ways to reach out and make more contacts, because I don't care how good you are at selling. If you're not speaking with enough people, you're going to, as Pete says, get thin. So let's avoid that. And I'll end as I always do. Please be sure to remember, sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being a member of the Sales Pro Network. Thank you, Peter Ekstrom.
You got it. Have a great weekend.
Bye, y'all.